Hello, and welcome to the online project update and virtual open house for the Town of Cobourg Community Improvement Plan for Affordable and Rental Housing. We are so happy you've taken the time to view the webpage and materials available for this project, as well as the information provided through this virtual presentation. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, I will be providing an update on the project and where we have gone with the work to date since our last open house in January of this year. I will also provide a brief review of the research and engagement completed to inform the development of the Community Improvement Plan, and will then detail the aspects of the Community Improvement Plan itself, including the proposed programs and implementation measures of the CIP. I will then conclude by briefly highlighting the next steps involved with bringing the CIP forward for adoption and approval. Let's now begin with a recap of the study and a project update. First, for those of you who may have been involved in the previous engagement sessions and open house events for this project, we have immensely enjoyed the time spent speaking with you and hearing your input over the past few months. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, traditional engagement has been suspended. However, we are providing this slide deck and virtual presentation as part of a modified virtual engagement and open house session to obtain further comments on the draft CIP. All documents and activities are available on the Engage Cobourg webpage for this project, and I encourage you to go there and review the material and the documents, comment on the display panels, and engage in the discussion. It is our hope to use the feedback obtained through the virtual open house period to finalize the documents and bring them back for recommendation later this year. To recap, a Community Improvement Plan, or CIP, is a plan for revitalization, redevelopment, and renewal of an area through programs to help make those improvements happen. It is intended to facilitate change in a neighborhood, community, or whole town and stimulate private sector investment through incentive programs. As part of this study, we are specifically looking to prepare a CIP for affordable and rental housing as identified by the County of Northumberland as a key implementation measure of the county's affordable housing strategy. By way of a quick update, the project began in late 2019, with the formal launch event being held on December 5th, 2019. The project has been undertaken in 3 phases, each building off the previous phase. Since the time of the project launch, we have completed significant background research, conducted open house workshops, and targeted stakeholder sessions. We have liaised with the Planning and Development Committee, or the PDAC, presented updates to Council, and developed a draft CIP for consultation with the PDAC. We are now in Phase 3 of the project, where we are seeking further input and feedback from the community and stakeholders on the CIP document through this virtual open house, as well as the future statutory public meeting. Background research. In terms of background research, the project team completed a background report which detailed the town's housing context, reviewed the policy framework for development of community improvement plans as well as applicable housing policy, included a summary of feedback received through stakeholder sessions and community consultation events, provided a financial analysis of potential CIP programs, and identified primary areas of focus for the CIP. Based on the background research, consultation findings, and financial assessment, 5 key areas of focus and considerations were identified for the development of the CIP, which are as follows: purpose-built rental housing, smaller units, second units, mixed income housing, and supporting emergency and transitional housing. In addition, we highlighted a number of other areas of focus to be considered, including sustainability, accessibility and universal design, brownfield revitalization, social and cultural well-being, and data collection, reporting, and monitoring. Project engagement. A number of engagement opportunities were provided throughout Phase 1 and 2 of the project, both in person and through the Engage Cobourg website. Specifically, following the project launch event and background review, we conducted an open house in January of 2020 in order to review preliminary findings and obtain feedback on the areas of focus. The purpose of this session was really to understand what areas should be prioritized for funding and incentives through the CIP. At this session, we heard from those in attendance that purpose-built rental housing should be the priority focus of the CIP. We also heard that smaller units and second suites should be incentivized, seeing the second suites as quick wins to bring more affordable units of a variety of types and sizes onto the primary and secondary rental markets. We also heard from attendees that a tiered approach to incentives should be explored, where proposals or submissions for funding that check off more of an identified set of criteria be provided greater incentives. For example, if a rental project proposed to incorporate both sustainability and urban design measures, as well as provide smaller units, that project should score higher and receive more funding than a project that perhaps provided only one of those elements. The background report and recommended draft CIP further detail this tiered approach. In addition to the in-person session, online consultation and engagement ran from December 2019 to January 31st, 2020, and provided additional information which was used as input to the development of the priority areas and incentive programs in the draft CIP. Again, many of the comments obtained through the website mirrored those received at the open house, with additional comments provided in terms of preference for incorporating sustainable urban design elements and ensuring a wide net in terms of locational criteria, with comments noting that incentives should be applied town-wide so as to avoid concentration of affordable housing in one area. Developing the draft CIP. The process involved in arriving at the CIP is shown on the right-hand side of this slide. As I have indicated previously, early stage research and consultation focused on taking the inputs received to develop preliminary areas of focus. Late stage consultation and analysis provided an opportunity to understand better the community need and transform the preliminary areas of focus into key priority areas for the CIP. The draft CIP is now available for public review and comment, and it is the intent that this consultation will result in a further refined version of the CIP to be brought forward for approval and adoption by Council. The next portions of this presentation will deal with some of the key areas of the CIP for your information. We encourage you to review the document in its entirety, as well as provide feedback on the interactive panels available on the Engage Cobourg website so that we can incorporate it into the final draft. We have prepared both a purpose and vision for the CIP, which are included on this slide. The purpose of the CIP is to provide for financial incentives designed to achieve community goals and priorities, as set out in the Northumberland County and Town of Cobourg affordable housing strategies and official plans, to assist in the development of affordable and rental housing across the town. Financial incentives are aimed at creating affordable units within the town on an annual basis, consistent with the target set out for the town in the Northumberland County Affordable Housing Strategy. The vision for the CIP is to minimize financial barriers to the creation of affordable and rental housing in order to assure an appropriate range and mix of dwelling types across the housing continuum are provided throughout the town, and provide opportunities and incentives for redevelopment of brownfield sites and projects that incorporate sustainable design and/or accessible design features. The following 10 objectives are proposed for the CIP. Facilitate the development of affordable and rental housing through financial supports. Increase the supply of affordable and rental housing units. Generate an appropriate mix of residential units and dwelling types. Make ownership housing more affordable to new home buyers and allow people to age in place through second units. Support and stimulate mixed income developments. Encourage the development of emergency and transitional housing. Assist in the achievement of the Northumberland County annual target for new affordable housing units. Reinforce the provision of affordable and rental housing as a community priority. Provide opportunities to incentivize development and redevelopment projects on brownfield sites, and provide opportunities to incentivize development or redevelopment projects that incorporate sustainable design and or accessible design elements. Draft programs proposed. A number of programs are proposed for the CIP, which are both targeted for priority areas identified to date, being purpose-built rental housing and second units, as well as other areas, including emergency and transitional housing, affordable home ownership, brownfield revitalization, sustainable design, and accessible universal design. In total, 13 programs have been identified to form part of the CIP. 4 programs have been developed to focus on increasing the number of purpose-built rental housing units in the town. These include the waiver of planning and building fees for an affordable rental or purpose-built rental housing project, grants for development charges for eligible projects based on a sliding scale for affordable rental or purpose-built rental housing projects where certain criteria are demonstrated, property tax grants equal to the incremental increase in municipal property tax assessment resulting from improvements to existing development or the development of new buildings containing affordable rental primary market or purpose-built primary market rental housing projects for a period of 5 years, and a grant equal to up to 50% of the calculated cash in lieu parking fee for purpose-built rental and purpose-built affordable rental housing projects where a municipal cash in lieu of parking program exists. 2 programs have been developed to focus on increasing the number of second units in the town, which include the reduction of planning and building fees for second units or coach houses, up to a 50% reduction, and a grant or loan for retrofits and or renovations to include secondary suites or coach houses. 2 programs are proposed to incentivize development of emergency and transitional housing. First, the waiver of planning and building fees for new emergency or transitional housing developments or renovations and upgrades to existing emergency or transitional housing uses, and a grant for development charges for eligible projects, again based on a sliding scale, for emergency or transitional housing projects where criteria are demonstrated. With respect to affordable home ownership, 2 programs are proposed. First, the reduction of planning and building fees for new affordable housing or home ownership developments, up to a 50% reduction. And second, a grant for development charges for eligible projects based on a sliding scale where the proposal is for an affordable housing or home ownership project where certain criteria can be demonstrated. Finally, 3 additional programs are proposed which could be made available to affordable and rental housing projects as well as for commercial, institutional, or mixed-use projects. These other areas are respecting brownfield redevelopment, universal design, and sustainable design. It is important to note that projects not associated with affordable and rental housing would not be funded through the Affordable and Rental Housing Assistance Reserve Fund and would need to be funded separately by Council. However, based on feedback obtained, these are included to ensure the opportunity is available for such projects to assess funding through a CIP in the future if needed. The Planning Act requires all CIPs to include provisions for implementation, monitoring, financial management, and reporting. The following slides provide details on these elements. All programs are to be funded by the town of Cobourg, although opportunities for applicants to secure additional funding from other sources in conjunction with the CIP incentives are permitted. As an example, many of the provincial funding sources require that applicants demonstrate they also have applied for and/or are in receipt of funding from the local municipality in order to be considered for the provincial funding. Ultimately, the intent of providing the funding and permitting it to be in conjunction with other programs at other levels is to ensure that the opportunity is there to allow for the development of affordable and rental housing. In terms of finances, there will be an annual budget approved by Council to be set aside for the CIP, which will fund the grants and loans. Reductions and waivers for application fees and municipal fees will be absorbed as lost revenue. Property tax relief would be recovered over time based on long-term tax increases based on tax assessment and property values. Any unused funding is to be carried forward and remain within a reserve fund. In terms of implementation, the Town Planning and Development Department will administer the CIP with input from Finance and Corporate Services. An application process is required, with approval authority for small projects granted to the Director of Planning or their designate, while large projects are required to go through an evaluation process by staff with recommendations forwarded to Council for approval. Certain programs will require agreements from the applicant to ensure the provision of affordable and/or rental housing units as described, and the maintenance of them as such for a specified time period. Agreements for other programs may also be required. Monitoring the CIP will take the form of both data collection on quantitative and qualitative items and reporting to Council. A number of metrics are proposed for each program that will form the basis of the report to Council. Additionally, a detailed review of the CIP is to occur no later than 5 years after adoption in order to ensure that the intent and objectives of the CIP are being met. A number of monitoring variables for each program have been developed which town staff will report on. The following slides detail these variables. These include construction value, type, tenure, and number of housing units created, number of jobs created and maintained, number of applications received, and number amount of any program defaults, to name a few. Next steps. We welcome any and all feedback on the proposed CIP and the incentive programs. We have prepared a series of panels for each program element with questions for your response, which are available on the Engage Cobourg website. We also welcome open-ended comments and feedback on any other elements of the CIP that may not be covered through the panels. We are also holding a statutory public meeting to present the CIP to Council and hear from the public on September 28, 2020. Following the public meeting and our review of input received, we will revise the CIP as needed and bring a final CIP to Committee of the Whole for consideration. We will be sure to update you on the timing for this meeting. We want to thank you again for your interest and involvement in this project. We will continue to engage with the public as best as possible during these times, and we remain committed to the public engagement component of this project. Thank you again. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with any member of the project team. Our contact information is available on the Engage Cobourg webpage.